There's a quiet negotiation happening inside your brain right now. While you're listening to this, neural circuits are weighing effort against comfort, depth against ease, focus against escape. This calculation is automatic, invisible, and relentless. It happens when you consider opening a book, starting a workout, or sitting down to work. It happens when your hand drifts toward your phone without conscious permission. And over time, this invisible negotiation shapes the entire trajectory of your life, not through dramatic failures, but through thousands of tiny decisions that slowly pull you toward distraction instead of meaning. What most people call a lack of discipline is actually a mismatch between an ancient brain and a modern environment. Your nervous system evolved to survive scarcity, danger, and unpredictability. It learned to conserve energy, to chase quick rewards, and to avoid unnecessary effort. In the wild, this strategy kept you alive. In a world of infinite stimulation, it keeps you stuck. The same neural machinery that once helped your ancestors survive now makes it hard for you to focus for 10 uninterrupted minutes. The uncomfortable truth is that willpower was never meant to fight a system this powerful. Every notification, every autoplay video, every engineered convenience is designed to exploit the exact reward circuits that guide your behavior. This isn't accidental. Entire industries are built around capturing and monetizing your attention. If you feel scattered, unmotivated, or constantly behind, it's not because you're weak. It is because your brain is responding exactly as it was designed to a world that est. Learned how to manipulate it. At the center of this process is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that has been deeply misunderstood. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure. It's the chemical of pursuit. It surges when your brain predicts that something rewarding might happen. This is why anticipation often feels better than achievement. This is why the thought of starting something can feel more intense than finishing it. Your brain releases dopamine to push you toward action, not to reward you afterward. This system works beautifully when rewards require effort, when food must be hunted, skills must be learned, and shelter must be built. Dopamine motivates sustained action, but when rewards become effortless and unlimited, the system breaks. Scrolling, snacking, clicking, and consuming flood your brain with dopamine signals without requiring real work. Over time, your brain adapts by reducing sensitivity. This process, known as downregulation, makes normal activities feel dull. What once felt satisfying now feels flat. What once felt challenging now feels unbearable. This is why people often confuse boredom with laziness. Boredom is not a lack of interest. It's a lack of dopamine sensitivity. When your baseline is artificially high, normal life can't compete. Reading feels slow. Exercise feels heavy. Deep work feels painful. And so your brain pushes you back toward the fastest source of stimulation it knows. Not because it's good for you, but because it's familiar. Neuroplasticity is the reason this pattern can be changed. Your brain is not fixed. It's constantly reshaping itself in response to what you repeatedly do. Every habit strengthens a neural pathway. Every avoidance weakens another. The brain does not judge your choices. It simply adapts to them. If you practice distraction, your brain becomes efficient at distraction. If you practice focus, it becomes efficient at focus. There is no neutral ground. This is where the idea of a dopamine detox enters the conversation. Despite the name, it's not about eliminating dopamine. Dopamine is essential for life. It's about removing the constant artificial triggers that keep your system in a state of overload. Think of it as recalibrating your internal reward thermostat. When stimulation is always high, meaning disappears. When stimulation is reduced, meaning returns. The early phase of this recalibration is uncomfortable. Your brain has been conditioned to expect constant input. When that input disappears, it reacts with restlessness, irritation, anxiety, and craving. This is not a failure state. It's a biological adjustment. The same way muscles ache when you start lifting weights. Your nervous system protests when you remove its usual sources of stimulation. Most people quit here because they interpret discomfort as danger. In reality, it's adaptation. During this period, time feels slower. Silence feels louder. Your thoughts become more noticeable. This can be unsettling, especially if you've been using stimulation to avoid thinking or feeling. But this is also where awareness begins. Without constant distraction, you start noticing patterns in your behavior. You see how often you reach for your phone out of habit, not need. You feel how quickly your mind tries to escape effort. This awareness is the foundation of discipline. But removal alone is not enough. If you only subtract stimulation without adding structure, your brain will find another escape. Discipline doesn't grow in a vacuum. It grows in systems. This means intentionally replacing fast rewards with slow, effort-based ones. Activities that don't spike dopamine instantly, but build it gradually through engagement and progress. Reading physical books, writing by hand, walking without audio, strength training, cooking, creating. At first, these activities feel unrewarding. That's expected. Your brain hasn't learned to associate them with satisfaction yet, but repetition changes this. After several days, dopamine begins to fire in anticipation of effort. Your brain learns that starting a workout leads to a feeling of strength and clarity. That opening a book leads to insight and focus. That working through resistance leads to completion. This is how discipline becomes intrinsically rewarding. There is a fundamental difference between pleasure and satisfaction that modern life has blurred. Pleasure is immediate, intense, and short-lived. Satisfaction is delayed, subtle, and lasting. Pleasure consumes. Satisfaction builds. Pleasure leaves you wanting more. Satisfaction leaves you feeling complete. A life dominated by pleasure feels exciting but hollow. A life built on satisfaction feels demanding but meaningful. Neuroscience shows that delayed gratification strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, impulse control, and long-term thinking. Every time you resist an impulse, you're not just making a good decision. You're physically reinforcing the neural circuits that make future resistance easier. Over time, discipline stops feeling like force and starts feeling like preference. This is why environment design matters more than motivation. Your brain takes the path of least resistance. If distraction is easy, you'll drift toward it. If focus is easy, you'll stay with it. Small changes compound. Keeping your phone out of reach, blocking websites, preparing healthy food in advance, laying out workout clothes. These are not tricks. They are ways of aligning your environment with your intentions so your brain doesn't have to fight itself. Social influence plays a role here as well. Human brains are deeply social. We unconsciously mimic the behaviors, values, and rhythms of the people around us. If your environment normalizes distraction, discipline will feel lonely. If your environment normalizes effort, discipline feels natural. This is why communities, accountability, and shared goals matter. Not for motivation, but for calibration. As your dopamine system stabilizes, something subtle but profound happens. Your attention span expands. You stop feeling the constant urge to check, switch, or escape. Tasks that once felt overwhelming become manageable. You experience fewer emotional swings because your brain is no longer riding waves of artificial highs and crashes. Your energy becomes steadier. Your thinking becomes clearer. Perhaps the most surprising change is your relationship with difficulty. Effort stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a signal of meaning. You begin to associate challenge with growth instead of discomfort. This is the psychological shift that separates people who struggle with discipline from those who embody it. Not because they are stronger, but because their brains have learned to value effort. This process is not a one-time reset. The modern world will always offer easy rewards. Discipline is not about rejecting comfort forever. It's about choosing when and how you engage with it. The goal is not deprivation, but control. To enjoy pleasure without being owned by it. To use tools without becoming their product. Rewiring your brain is ultimately about reclaiming agency, about becoming someone whose actions align with their values, someone who can sit with discomfort without escaping it, someone who can work deeply without constant validation. This doesn't make life easier. It makes it clearer. So, choose one thing, just one. The highest source of empty dopamine in your life. Remove it for 7 days. Observe what happens. Don't judge the discomfort. Don't analyze it away. Just notice it. Notice when it peaks. Notice when it fades. Notice what fills the space. That space is where discipline grows. On the other side of this process is not perfection, it's alignment. Your brain stops pulling you in opposing directions. Effort feels purposeful. Focus feels natural. Discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about becoming yourself. Your brain is adaptable. It's waiting for instruction. The question isn't whether it will rewire. It's what you're training it to value: ease or meaning, distraction or depth, comfort or growth.